in this episode.
Hi, it's Dan at FPL_Local Lloyd, and this episode's about Liverpool.
The Fantasy Football Show.
Hello listeners and welcome to episode 20 of the Planet FPL 30 in 30. My name's Serge.
My name is James.
And today we have none other than Dan, one of our new correspondents at FPL_Loco Lord, who will be writing this season for the mighty Liverpool.
He already has been, in fairness.
He has, to be fair. Yeah, we've had a couple of articles and bits and pieces already. Dan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks guys. I'm good to go.
Have you recovered from Champions League final?
Yeah, it took me about 3 or 4 days. I think it was about the Wednesday when my hangover kind of disappeared. But other than that, yeah, I'm all right now.
Congratulations, mate.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
No, it's all genuine. No, I said it in the pod we recorded, and then the diary thing I did as well. Like you can't say anything other than congratulations to them, mate. After the season they had, they deserve something out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it ended
Fucking
up being
wankers.
a ridiculous season. Dan, you made the real effort to come down to the live show, which was really interesting. And one of the things you said at the time was that Liverpool really needed to win that Champions League final, because coming off the back of 97 points and not winning the league, to then go and lose a Champions League final as well may have made next season a little bit difficult. But you did go on to win it. And now, with the fixtures having just come out, if you're not on 33 points after 11 games, I'm going to be very surprised.
Yeah, well,
It doesn't
we'll need
work
to start like that. No. But we'll have to see, yeah. I mean, especially the opening fixture, Norwich, I couldn't have asked for a better one, to be honest, at home to Norwich. It's
Friday night, under the
everyone,
lights. We all know that the atmosphere at football is always evening kickoff means people have had a few beers, and obviously under the lights, and then Anfield under the lights is always an interesting place. It's going to be a tough game for Norwich. Before we get too into Liverpool, tell us about your FPL season. How was your season last year? Were you happy with it? Anything you'd have done differently?
To be honest, I'm probably going to disappoint a few people, but no, I wasn't happy with it. At 31,000, a lot of people would have been, but no, I wasn't. I was aiming for 10k, and I fell a long way short.
Were you in the top 10k at bits throughout the season, or was it just the case of...
I think vaguely, middle of the season, I got up to about 3,000, I think.
Wow.
And then just flirted about between 30 and 50 and 60 for like weeks and weeks and weeks. I think I was 25 going into the final game.
Yeah.
And I had a decision to make on Salah or Mane to bring in, and I brought in Salah, so Mane would have made the difference there, definitely.
If it makes you feel any better, our Southampton correspondent got up to 2k throughout the season and then dropped to 150 odd, wasn't it? So he got higher than you and fell much lower than you, and many managers did. So tough season. How long have you been playing FPL?
Seriously, that was like my 3rd season finished. I played it before, but I generally played the Telegraph one.
Right.
So it was kind of just in the background. I'd kind of pick a team at the start of the season and generally forget about it and spend all my time sorting the Telegraph one out. So starting with this 16-17 season, that's when I started properly and didn't play any other game other than that one.
Is there money in the Telegraph one? Do we know? I know the Sky obviously has got 50
That's
grand.
the reason I played it. I thought I was going to be a millionaire by playing that one, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I feel like the Telegraph one, because obviously Sky and the Telegraph have the advantage of fewer players, and obviously a lot more players I feel will drop off. So you're then playing against the field of maybe 50 to 100,000 people rather than the few million that you've got in the official game. So maybe it's worth having a look. If the Telegraph game had money on it, I might even fancy having a stab at it.
Yeah, the problem with the Telegraph game, and one of the reasons I stopped doing it, is I think you got one free entry and then you paid for extra entries. And some people had like 200 teams.
What?
Yeah, they paid for 200 teams, and it's just like, you just can't compete against stuff like that. You'd see like the top 100 rankings, and it'd be like one guy would have like 20 teams in the top 100. And it'd be like,
I think that does ruin it a little bit, to be fair.
Sky game it is then.
Yeah, Sky's the one. We'll limit our winnings to 50 grand.
Also with Telegraph, a weird thing they had like an assister as well.
Yeah.
Which would have been good for like De Bruyne and people like that. So the key pass that found the key pass was kind of given the 3 points as well.
Okay, and I think that's something that we'd like to see. I think the problem with that is that it's quite subjective, isn't it? And it brings into a lot more of we moan enough about the BPS system. The assister would cause even more arguments, because you've got the flip side of that where people are picking up assists for doing sweet FA, like Kevin De Bruyne tapping the ball to Bernardo Silva 35 yards out. Bernardo Silva puts it in the top corner.
What like company to like
Laporte to company. Exactly. I mean, it's an assist.
I mean, that's not an assist in my book. That's not an assist.
It fucking was, because Laporte's in my FPL team, so it counts.
it was in my team as well, but I still don't agree with it.
So that's the opposite of the assister. It's the what would you call it? Virtual assist.
I call it the Tom Carroll assist. Sorry to bring this up, but you remember Bell's goal at West Ham?
Yeah.
Where Tom Carroll was like 2 yards from him. Bell's, give me the fucking ball. Like, I'm just going to bury this by myself.
Yeah.
The Tom Carroll assists, I call them. Love it.
Interesting. So you played the Telegraph for a while. You're not going to play the Telegraph next year then? You're not thinking?
No, I haven't played it for 3 years now. All I've played is FPL for 3 years. Yeah.
Interesting.
I play other ones. I play Champions League, and I did Sky again 1 year, about 3 or 4 years ago, but that was like half-heartedly as well. So
you've just
Champions League. I did all right with that this year. I finished in the top 100. I was second at one point, and I had a bit of a nightmare, because when you're captain in the Champions League game, if your captain gets sent off, you're not allowed to change your captain for the other rounds, and I had Pogba.
Oh man!
So he screwed me over. I was 19th place when that happened, and I dropped to about 98th or something like that, and it was just clawing my way back up then.
I mean, you're still talking like double digits in terms of rank, and you've got Europe-wide a lot of people playing that game.
How many played that, just out of interest, Dan?
I think it was about 500,000, something like that, 500, 600,000.
Impressive rank.
Yeah, it's a decent game.
Fewer teams to choose from, obviously. James and I don't really like to venture outside of our comfort zone. We don't even play draft, to be honest.
We don't even have a comfort zone.
So we didn't piss about with the World Cup one last summer. We didn't do Champions League, but I think we should broaden our horizons. And you have got a thought. We had a really interesting episode with Paul from Sky Player talking about and more about how to use the Sky rules to help your official FPL game. And you've lit a fire in me to try and find the regular Telegraph player. Maybe there's something in what could you learn from the Telegraph game for official FPL. But we'll save that for a chat for another day, because we do need to talk about Liverpool. And everyone's now the fixtures were announced 2 days ago, and people need to be aware we're recording on the 15th. It's obviously the 20th that this goes live, so a lot can happen in 5 days. But as soon as the fixtures are announced, most of the talk on Twitter is I've got to have 3 Liverpool, 3 City, with the starts that both teams have. If you try and do it, you're not going to have much left in the bank elsewhere.
No, you're going to have to find maybe your Zinchenko's, or if Gomez gets the nod, people like that who might come in relatively cheap compared to the others.
The thing we talked about it in the pod that's only gone live today, to be honest with you, about the fixtures. At the point that you're going down into the second tier Liverpool and City players, your Bernardo Silva, Zinchenko, maybe Joe Gomez, if you wanted to take a punt on Wijnaldum or something like that, you may as well go to Tottenham and pick up their Dele Allis of the world and Sons. So I'm almost thinking, you know what? Yeah, in an ideal world, you'd want 3 Liverpool and 3 City, but maybe just be sensible and pick up 2 of each, and don't put all your eggs in those 2 baskets.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the case with the pricing. You're probably thinking that Van Dijk and Robertson are going to be 7.5, maybe even 8. I know James thinks that they may go that high.
Yeah.
And then you could argue that Trent really should be the same. Yes, he scored less points, but he played a hell of a lot less minutes.
Yeah, points per minute. He's a different level. That guy.
He'll be outdoing them, I would have thought.
We talked about it in the England game. 13 chances created or 8 chances created or something stupid? Yeah.
I mean, defensively, he's not as good as the others, but that doesn't matter in FPL.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. You're looking for the assist, and he's got a goal in him, whereas Robertson hasn't. Van Dijk obviously has, but Robertson is few and far between his goals.
Best 3 outfield players last season in FPL for value.
Points per pound, that is, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Van Dijk.
Wow.
There you go. Says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any temptation? So I think there'll be 8, 7.5, and 7 respectively, with Robertson at the top end of that and Van Dijk at the bottom. Is there any justification in getting all three, even at those prices?
I'd say no. It'll eat a lot of your budget there. A lot of your budget. So, you know, what are you looking at for your forward line and your midfielders if you're spending that much on your midfielders?
You are punting one or the other, right?
Should I say?
If you've got a heavy backline like that, and we know so many of the points came from midfield last year, what do you then do? And do you think you could go the season without Mane or Salah?
Well, that's the problem. But then if you look at, say, the points per game last year, Salah 6.8 per game, Alexander-Arnold 6.4 per game.
Okay.
More than Mane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I was going double defensive next season, it would definitely be Liverpool double defensive over City. But it's such an interesting conundrum that it's put in front of FPL managers, and I'm actually quite glad that it exists. You know, this dilemma, and after the initial hype of let me get 3 City and 3 Liverpool, the reality sinking in, and people thinking, well, how are you going to afford the rest of your squad? And realism kicking in a little bit.
I'd tell a lie.
I think we've got to see the prices, haven't we? Once we see the prices, we've got a better idea. I mean, I've said to James at the meetup, I don't think Robertson will be 8, but still 7.5 is a lot. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of your budget. And if he's 7.5, then Van Dijk and Trent are going to be 7 at least, or 7.5 as well. So it's a big chunk of your budget. And like you say, I think my feelings early, looking at the fixtures and looking at Liverpool, I'd probably be looking at doubling up on the defence and doing probably Mane over Salah if pricing is that much different.
Yeah.
Like James said earlier, if you're looking at Liverpool, it's pretty simple. Like you said, you've got Alisson, Robertson, Van Dijk, Trent, Firmino, possibly, Salah and Mane. Maybe Keita or the Ox can step up next year, but other than that, there's no one who's an option for Liverpool. You're not wasting a Liverpool spot on anybody else. It's just not.
No,
it's
I
not.
think
right.
with City there are other ways you can. The only budget one I think with Liverpool, the interesting one's Gomez. I think if Gomez comes in at 5 million and he gets a regular shirt, I think that's one you start questioning.
Yeah.
Hang on, should I just get my sort of 6 every other week here? But with City, there are loads of others at lower values, at sort of 7, 8s, who I think can be considered. I don't feel that way with Liverpool. I feel with Liverpool, don't be fucking clever about it. There are 6 or 7 players, and they are the only players that you should be targeting. You don't be looking at the Wijnaldums and the Keiters and being clever that, when Milner plays, he'll be on the pens. Go for the big guys, or don't
and set
go
and
at all.
forget. Yeah. Well, one thing that we should
Completely
probably apologise well in advance for, Dan, is a problem that FPL Pringle, City correspondent, suffers with, and it's now going to be happily transferred to you as well. In that the community will Liverpool don't rotate as much, so you won't suffer as much as he does. But people are going to be asking you who's playing in the Liverpool lineup week in, week out, who's going to be rotated and rested and what have you. It's probably more will Salah play or is Salah fit? So brace yourself.
I think the problem is, I don't mind. Ask away, and I'll give my opinion. And again, it's only an opinion, but it's Liverpool, like City, like all the big clubs. Everyone pretty much knows what the starting 11's going to be, and there's a few question marks here and there. I did try and advise a few people later in the season that Firmino wouldn't be fit for the game. I think it was 36 or 37 after the Barca game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone took me on. I said he's not playing. He's definitely not playing. And he didn't. And a lot of people got stung with that. So,
well, they'll know you now, mate.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully I can help. But
you're not behind the Anfield Express Twitter account, are you?
No, I wish I was.
He's not behind it. He is it.
He is it, yeah.
That'd be good.
Just to go back to those 3 defenders, if I can. Mane, same average points per game as Alexander-Arnold. But I was looking at Alonso's numbers briefly while the two of you were talking. So Alonso had the previous 2 seasons 165 and 177 points.
Yep.
And went to 7 million. So last season, Alexander-Arnold 185, and remember he had the best points per match. Van Dijk 208, Robertson 213. I can't see how anybody can believe these guys are going to be less than 7 million.
Yeah, no one does think they'll be less than 7.
They won't be less than 7.
7.5. 8 is the question mark. 7.5 and 7 all day long.
But why not
8
those
is the
numbers?
question mark.
213 points.
Well, we don't know the algorithm or the kind of numbers on what they make their decision making on the pricing there.
Let's put it a different way.
Yeah.
Do we think Liverpool will have an inferior season next season?
Defensively,
So it's 21 or 23 clean sheets? I can't remember what it was. It was
21 clean sheets. Yeah. 21 clean sheets. So I think you'll be looking at the late teens again, maybe 20. I don't think they'll outdo that, but I don't think they'll be too far away. Other than City, I mean, Liverpool are good defensively. City are not that they're good defensively. It's just that the other team never get the ball to actually attack. Yeah. Where it's slightly different. So, they are good defensively. But it'll all depend. If Van Dijk gets injured game week 2 and is out for 6 weeks, everything will change.
Much more vulnerable if he's not there. That's the big thing,
yeah,
right?
Definitely.
But all things considered, I could easily see more than 20 clean sheets in Liverpool next season.
Sorry to keep throwing the numbers out. 76 bonus points between the three of them last year.
I don't know. Are you trying to make the case for having all three?
I'm trying to make the case that I think a lot of people are going for 2.
Two's a given because the third spot, if you're going to go premium, you've got to go to Laporte, right? How many points did Laporte score over the whole season last year? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, but I'll soon find it for you.
Yeah, so for me, it would be 2 Liverpool and Laporte. You can't have no City.
177 Laporte.
177. So he matched Alonso from the previous year. So you'd think Laporte will be 7. So Laporte plus 2 of Van Dijk, Robertson and Trent, I can see, but 3 of I couldn't see. And if you do that, then you're punting. For me, you've got to make a decision. Are you punting all of your midfield and sticking it up front, or kind of really having only one decent midfielder, one decent attacker, and then you're going to have to look through the kind of dribs and drabs of anything else you can possibly afford?
Yeah, I mean, that's where all the planning's going to come in. Once the prices come out, my feelings early are I'm probably going to avoid maybe a premium striker and look at the likes of Wilson, Jimenez as my main striker and a couple of fodder on the bench and maybe go big in midfield and have the 5. I don't know until the prices come out, until I play around with different things, but you're looking at, like you say, you're looking at 2 Liverpool and probably Laporte, and it's at least £22
million. Which is
of
gone.
Your million.
The thing that people are not factoring in at the moment is, we talked about it briefly, James, on the Fixtures podcast, was obviously captain choice. When you're picking these players, you want a set and forget or rotatable captain. You need to plan out who your captain's going to be. With Spurs' home fixtures, Spurs' first 5 home fixtures, first 8 home fixtures, you were saying as well, was it up to 8? Yeah. Are solid as a rock. They're not playing anyone that they can't beat at home, which makes Harry Kane a real option when you're playing fodder. And if Harry Kane comes into the mix, then you're dropping one of your Liverpool and City assets. But you need a captain. That's my point, more than get Harry Kane. You need a captain. And so if you're not rotating between your premium Liverpool and City midfielders, if it's Sterling or Sane or Mane, then other players come in. And Aubameyang isn't going to be cheap. He's the same price as Aguero. Kane isn't going to be cheap. Same price as Aguero.
Like, if you wanted Kane and Aubameyang as a captain rotator,
then you have to punt
you've got to sacrifice away from
Liverpool and City
and all them, which I don't think don't compromise on Liverpool and Man City would be the advice, right? If it means going without the forwards, I think Dan's got a clearer idea there of what he wants to do, and I'm not against that at all.
Yeah.
I would want to analyse it and go, right, how many weeks am I going to captain Harry Kane if I went that way? And if it's not at least every other, then he's not coming in. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, premium money has to be a captain option. And then James mentioned it last season, throughout the season, when to Salah or not to Salah, and it was if I'm buying Salah but I'm not going to captain him, what's the point? It was a very good question and point you made there.
It was too much with Salah. You need to be captain him really 3 out of 5 at his value. I would say. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, definitely. All premium assets are there for the captain's armband, aren't they? Interestingly, I did like a season review for, I can't remember his name now, one of the managers, Chris Tan, and he was near. I did a review of his team and his captains, and every other week, particularly the second half of the season, he was bringing in a player on a transfer, captaining him, and he was nailing it every time. It was unbelievable. He was, bring Hazard in and drop Salah, and then Hazard's getting 20 points, and he's captain, he's 40, Salah only got a 5 or an 8. And he did that consistently, and that's kind of, it made me think: is this a new method maybe to playing? Just rotating your premium all the time, looking at who's got the best next fixture instead of planning 4, 5, 6 fixtures ahead.
You don't want to be constantly chopping and changing with your 4th and 5th choice defender and that. No. You want to get that's the biggest choice, isn't it? Is the captain. You've obviously done a great piece on how important hitting your captain is. And I know from your evidence it wasn't the real reason why you didn't hit where you wanted to hit by the end of the season. But
for me it was.
There's more reasons for you, boy. But it obviously does play such a crucial factor. And obviously if you're getting the transfer right and it's your captain as well, then yeah, absolutely. The flip side of that is that could go very wrong as well. So you've got to have some confidence in what you're doing. But I don't mind that as a strategy idea. Just to finish on the back line, Dan, who do you think, just one of them, who do you think would be the best value?
Trent.
And what do you think price-wise?
I think I still think that him and Van Dijk will probably be 7 and Robbo 7.5. But if Robbo's 8, then them two are 7.5.
I don't even know why we bothered trying to predict prices, to be honest. It is
my point of why I think it's important is I think Alexander-Arnold at 7.5 is almost a definite for me. At 7 million, he's the first name in the squad.
Yeah.
That's more my point. And I think, there's a gravitational pull for away from Trent, which is interesting as... I think you owned Robertson a lot as well. I owned Robertson
game week 1 to
38. The whole season. And
1 to 38.
By about game week 4 and 5, I was saying to you, I'm going to have him all season.
Yeah.
He's not moving.
To be fair, in game weeks 1 to 4, we said the same about Mendy, and then he managed to get himself injured. But Mendy hit the start of the season well as well.
Whatever happened to Ram?
Yeah, where is Ram?
Let's move on to...
Interestingly, last season I started with Trent, and obviously Liverpool were racking up the clean sheets, but he was getting the odd booking, no bonus, and Robbo was just getting the 3s or the 2s. So I switched Trent to Robbo, and in hindsight, probably, well, not in hindsight, because Robbo played almost every minute and Trent was in and out. But I could have done with a double up on them, I think. I went Alisson instead for the double up and Salah or Mane, and I wish I'd have gone Trent and Robbo, because even if he's missing the games, the points he's getting when he's playing, he's making up for them blanks.
Do you think Alisson would be an option again next year?
For the 2 seasons prior to this one where I played, I always tried to be clever and get the rotating keepers, and it always screwed me over. I was always picking the wrong one. The one on the bench was getting points. So this year, I said to myself, halfway through the season, I was like, right, that's it. I think it was about game week 10, I brought Alisson in and he stayed there for the season. And next year, I think it's going to be Ederson, or I might even take a punt on someone like Pickford. Everton, decent fixtures. They had a good end to the season defensively. It all depends on budget. It's definitely not going to be Alisson, because I'm not wasting a Liverpool spot on Alisson, because he'll not get you anything other than a clean sheet.
That's a key point.
Yeah.
Key point. Yeah. I think if you're going to go that route, if Gomez is going to be regular and presumably cheaper, you might as well do that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the front guys, Dan, because it's not just all about the back line, although it feels like that's all the talk. Mane and Salah, first of all, do you think both staying as midfielders, and where do you think they'll be at value-wise?
Yes, I think they'll both be midfielders. Again, different opinion to yourself. When we spoke at the thingy, you think Salah's going as a forward, don't you?
I'm becoming less and less convinced by the day to take.
I think everyone is suddenly, as closer it gets. It's
I'll be very surprised. I think if he does, then people like Sterling have got to be put as forwards, and it's not going to happen. I wouldn't have thought. He did have a spell. He did have a spell where he was playing through the centre, but he went back out wide, and he was there for the last 15, 16 games of the season.
There are a lot of players that you could say play in a similar position. Son is one of them. Nathan Redmond we spoke about. Raheem Sterling that you spoke about. Like you reclassify Salah, you reclassify the lot. And Mane's no different. He's just on the other side. So you then have to you reclassify him as well. I think it opens a can of worms that the game probably don't want to open at the moment.
No, and my opinion on it is also, if they're wingers, if they're tracking back, obviously Salah not always, but if they're defending in at least half of Liverpool's half, you know, they're a midfielder.
Yeah.
Whereas your forwards, they'll defend to the halfway line generally. Obviously Firmino's slightly different because he's kind of buzzing in around everywhere, but they've got to be midfielders. And that, like your other question, I think Salah will probably start at 13. It wouldn't surprise me if he was a little bit more. He's
same as
top
last
goal
year,
scorer. Yeah, top point scorer for the last 2 seasons, considering he's a one-season wonder.
Mm-hmm.
And Mane jumps up. Mane started at 9.5 last season, and he finished on 10.3.
Yeah.
So I think he'll probably be similar, and I've seen talk of it on Twitter, and I kind of agree. He'll probably come in about 11, like Sterling did.
Yeah.
Pretty similar season to the season before Sterling had, and went up to 11. So
there's a lot of parallels in what happens with Sterling and Mane. So yeah, Mane will be in and around that.
I think it might be 11.5.
Yeah, it makes.
Yeah,
They want to
be.
make it. They want to make the choice tantalizing for FPL managers. Like, the closer it is, the more you're like, should I just pay that extra $1.5 million premium for Salah? Because if it's a 2 million or 2.5 million gap between them, then Mane obviously clearly is better value for money. But if it's like 1.5 million, then suddenly it's a little bit close that it turns your mind to thinking about it.
I want Salah at 14. I want Trent at 9. I want them to make this seriously fucking difficult for me. That's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, it does make the game.
It would make it difficult, because then people are having to sacrifice everywhere, aren't they, if they want these players?
Yeah, and it's,
I mean,
it's always...
Salah's the...
Sorry, Dan.
Salah's obviously the better option. In terms of, you look at stats, yes, Mane had this run and this, that and the other. Salah's generally 5 or 6 shots a game, whereas sometimes Mane's 1 or 2. And he's always in and around, and you know how selfish he is. Well, both of them to that extent, but he's going to be the one outscoring Mane again, I would say, almost definitely. It's just whether that price difference is worth what points difference it would be.
Would they finish joint top goal scorer?
Yeah.
The interesting one of Mane's 3 assists.
Yeah, exactly.
Any reason you think that happened?
I don't really know. I think a lot of Salah's assists probably came from saved shots or something like that.
I can think of one off the top of my head.
But yeah, he's quite poor. He's 3 really for a player like Mane. You would be expecting him to get 5, 6, 7 at least.
When you look at Trent and Robertson getting about 25 between them,
then
I
mean that's the difference,
shocking,
isn't
with
it?
how far forward he's playing in a great team. Are the pair of them, Mane and Salah, as selfish as everyone makes out, mate?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, I had a conversation with I can't remember his name. Is it Hortz or whatever, the West Ham guy? Yeah. And he was saying, why do they hate each other? And I was like, I don't think they do. I just think they just the self, because he was saying, if they pass to each other more, Liverpool have walked this league.
The Huddersfield game was hilarious.
He could have a case. He could have a case with that, but it's I don't know.
8 out of 10 games, it's not a problem because you're going to win 2-3, 4-0 comfortably anyway. But there were games last season where it was a bit too close for comfort. The West Ham game comes to mind at our place and stuff. And those are the ones where, maybe a little bit more cohesion might not make them as much of a pain to go through for Liverpool.
When it matters, they'll give it to each other. I think the point is, like, looking at, say, like that Huddersfield game in 36, that they were laughable. The pair of them wouldn't have give each other the ball if they'd sitting there with an open goal, mate. It just wasn't happening. But I think when it matters, they'll give the ball to each other. I get it in my ears sometimes about Son and Kane don't get on. Oh, it's fucking bullshit. I just think they're driven to be individualistic players.
They're goal scorers, and that's what goal scorers do. You don't score goals unless you shoot, and that's what they are.
Yeah.
And the same. Interestingly, I think like fluidity-wise, Liverpool, like the front 3 of Salah, Mane, and Firmino last year were nowhere near as good as the season before.
Yeah.
I just don't think they clicked off as well, and luckily, Trent and Robertson stepped up. But I think that's kind of down to a tactical change as well from Liverpool. Obviously, from the season before, everyone's like, right, we need to be doubling up on Salah and Mane on the wings, hence giving Trent and Robertson that much more room. And you're ballsed if you do, you're ballsed if you don't, if you're playing Liverpool. So it's like, okay, right, we don't double up on Salah and we push on Robertson and don't let him come on. And then Salah's 1-on-1 and same on the other side. How do you get around it as an opposing team? The best thing is to go through the middle, because they're not going to get much through the middle. They've no creativity, pretty much. It's interesting to see what will happen next year. I mean, from a Liverpool point of view, they need really somebody in that central midfield, and then they've got the three options. You've got your wingers, you've got your fullbacks, and then you've got some kind of craft and guile in the centre of midfield. But I don't think it's coming.
You do have a number of options there that are frustrating from an FPL point of view because they're priced reasonably, but they just don't get the minutes. But Adam Lallana, Shaqiri jump to mind. And also, I'm a big fan of the Ox. You mentioned him earlier. I think he's a great young talent and a great player. Shame we missed him for the whole of last year.
I think you've got an obsession with people being young. I don't think he's young anymore either.
No, to be fair, he's probably not either. He's probably as old as Jesse Lingard.
He's Lingard young, isn't he?
Yeah, so he still looks baby-faced. But Ox is one that could become an option. Like if he came in at 6 or 6.5 million, I really think I'd take a punt on him, knowing that if he's benched and doesn't get any minutes, and whoever I've got in replacement will just come in. Said
you can't really do that with Liverpool.
You can, because if he's 6 million and you only got 2 others, and you're not going to have 3 premiums there, so he becomes your cheap.
I don't think you can from the off, from game week 1. You got to see how Klopp's going to line them up next season. But if he's consistently getting minutes, I think Ox is the only other player. Possibly Keita from his history in Germany, but not so much so last season because he didn't look like he'd be getting your FPL points.
Well Shaqiri, people jumped on Shaqiri when you had a few injuries because they thought he would get minutes, and he did return when he did play reasonably well last season at £7.5 million. Shaqiri wasn't a bad shout, but I think Ox would be first choice ahead of Shaqiri and ahead of Lallana to come into that team.
I don't think Shaqiri will get enough minutes to warrant one of your Liverpool slots going on Shaqiri.
No. And
he's got the assist. He's a great dead ball taker, free kicks and his crossings.
You guys play on the counter attack a lot, and I'd love to see a 100-metre race between Ox and Shaqiri. That'd be some funny shit because Shaqiri's just a little tubby and slow, isn't he? And Ox would just batter him. So counter-attacking football, Ox fits into your style. Even if he was coming in off the bench, by the time you're 3-0 up and a team's knackered, dead and buried. So many times Liverpool scored late goals to just take it from a 2-0 to a 4-0.
Was it in the Champions League quarter final with City? He picked up the injury. He was really beginning to dominate.
Ox is a good player.
Yeah, no I like
him. The season before, the season before with the City game, I was at that match actually.
Problems. I mean, he'd solve a few, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I do feel like.
And the thing is, this problem's followed Ox around. He is injury prone, isn't he? And it's can he put it behind him? I don't know. It's only time will tell. But he's definitely got potential to take one of them slots from an FPL side of things if he's getting the minutes.
And it's cheap.
I wonder next year because I sort of said when I was in Madrid that I thought Spurs might line up with sort of Son and Lucas on the 2 fullbacks. I wonder if next year that might really restrict the 2 fullbacks in terms of this idea. It's alien and it's not really been tried, but it's the idea of cheating, if you will. So like either not going back with the fullbacks to make them think, oh, they're in behind me, I've got to be careful. Or the idea of having defensive wingers who will kind of man-mark these guys might be something to look out for early in the season. I don't know if a side like Norwich might go there and maybe even try it opening day to go, right, we're going to have a bank of 4 and a bank of 5, let's see what you got. It's an interesting one, but they seem to, I think it's because Mane and Salah, the way they come inside, it just opens up for those two to bomb on down the flanks. And I think,
and that's the tactic, and that's why their midfield is a no-go from an FPL point of view, because they're basically there to plug them gaps when they go forward. Your Fabinos and your Hendersons or Wijnaldums, they're there, not to bomb forward, and to plug them holes basically.
I
you know,
really
when
like
Trent goes
Fabinho.
and Robbo
I think
goes.
he's a good
Yeah,
player.
he is.
Yeah,
I like
Fabinho,
Keita.
he's definitely got a lot of potential. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is with the two of them as well. I mean, Robertson particularly gets on the overlap. Alexander-Arnold can deliver from anywhere.
Yeah,
And that's why I mentioned
his-
the idea of actually, no, I'm going to be right in your face straight away. Might be something to watch out for early next year because, I mean, without them assist numbers, it's a different conversation about them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, look, Dan.
But then again, yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dan, we wanted to thank you for taking the time out to come and join us on the show as one of our new correspondents. As we've said with all of the correspondents and all the kind of shows that we've done so far, we need to get back in touch once the prices are out and once the kind of transfer windows is closed. This is the first show that we've done with a correspondent where transfer talk has played zero part of it.
We don't need to fucking buy anyone. That's why.
Which is very interesting, right? Every other correspondent chats like, what's the rumours and what's the rumours. Liverpool, we haven't spent 1 second talking about
We
it.
know then.
Pepe is the only rumour, isn't it, that's been floated around, the Lille player, the winger. I think that's a lot of money for someone who's going to play second fiddle, really. I don't know if... I didn't think they'd spend big. I mean, Emery said that there's money available if they want to invest. If they do, it's got to be a centre midfield with a bit of guile, and other than that, you know, I think the players coming back, like we've mentioned, your Oxes,
and I could see
stuff like that. Their cover, you know, that who you're going to get at, you know, at them kind of prices to sit on the bench.
The only other
You
player
just
that
not.
you could upgrade but you'd cost you money would be Firmino in terms of getting a real 20-goal a season striker. But I think you've got someone in Origi there who, if he was given the opportunity, could potentially break into the team and do a better job than Firmino as well.
But Firmino's not there for goals. Firmino's the link. He's really important for Liverpool. And, you know, yes, you want the forward to get goals, but if you've got Mane on one side getting 22, Salah on the other side getting 22,
who cares?
You're happy if he's getting 10 to 15. It doesn't matter. A striker would mean we'd have to change the way we play, and that... I don't think that's
Not
an
on the
option.
cards.
Firmino stays.
I actually think the priority for Liverpool in the transfer window would be backup in the fullback areas, believe it or not.
Particularly left back, yeah. Particularly left back. Gomez could cover right
Gomez
back.
Moreno's on his way out,
Gomez
isn't he?
can obviously cover at right back fine, and Milner would do you a job at left back, but it's not a long-term solution. So
no.
I think those two have become such an entity now, and you want someone to be able to step in and do a similar job. Gomez is not going to have to sort of... And I think he should... I mean, I haven't really asked you, Gomez or Matip, where do you see that opening day?
I think it depends on pre-season. If you'd have asked me 4 or 5 months ago, I'd have said Gomez all day long. But Matip had such a strong end to the season. He's kind of pushed his case forward. But then again, sometimes I think I could play in centre half of Liverpool alongside Van Dijk. He's that good. So I don't suppose it matters who plays next to him.
Cool.
Even Lovren might do a job.
Well, yeah.
It's steady.
Best defender in the world.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Some days. Listen, Dan, thanks for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. It's nice for the listeners to get to know you before, obviously, the content throughout the season and once the game really kicks into gear. And we're looking forward to having you back on as soon as we get the prices and all the rest of that kind of stuff talking about Liverpool.
Right, lovely. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
No worries. Anything else to add, James?
Nah, pleasure, Dan. Thank you very much. Serge?
It means we're 20 episodes down, 2/3 of the way through.
Tomorrow, just for a bit of Merseyside balance, we got Sean at Spirit Blues.
Oh, there we go. Keeping Liverpool on 2 consecutive days. You know, we're 2/3 of the way through 30 and 30. I went in. I spoke to Manchild yesterday, and I said, Manchild, I've got a new idea. And he just looked at me, and he goes, "What is it?" I go, "It's 365 in 365." And yeah, he was just like, "Get out of it, go away." So
that's off to you guys. A lot of work, a lot of effort.
It feels like it now. I'm telling you, it didn't. It felt like a good idea at the beginning, and to be honest, it still is a good idea. Yeah. But yeah, it is fair hard work. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Tune in tomorrow. Stay subscribed. Hit subscribe on iTunes or YouTube or wherever else you're listening to the show to get notified as soon as we drop episode 21 all the way through to 30. Other than that, all it leaves me to say is ciao for now.
Cue music, man, child.
Messi,